Hi, my name is Gerhard Schwartner, and welcome to Selling Power TV live today on LinkedIn with an expert, Michael Aronovitz. He is Senior Vice President of Revenue Growth with VXI. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to our chat today.
And to begin with a little rhyme, I think we should focus our attention on retention.
Very good. Very
Why,
good.
why is retention sort of like a stepchild in a sales organization?
That's a great question. And retention is the hardest sale of all, right? Selling an existing customer who doesn't want your service anymore. And I think there's so much effort that has always been put on acquiring new customers that sometimes we forget that once we acquire that customer, we have to keep them happy. And when you retain customers, you actually lower your cost per acquisition, because if you're churning, you always have that exorbitant amount for customer acquisition. If you're keeping them longer and reducing churn, you lower your cost per acquisition, then allowing your marketing team to spend more money in other channels to drive new customers. So front end is fine. The back end is really important.
And what is the biggest mistake that companies make when it comes to retention?
There's a plethora of big mistakes. And probably the first one is to use the data and understand why your customer is churning. And once you can figure out and predict churn, then you can train your agents how to save those customers and how to grow those customers with the right products, with upselling and cross-selling. But the biggest mistake is not using data and analytics to have predictability on churn, which goes back to your first question on the front end. We put a lot of time and effort into acquiring customers, but did we sell them the right product at the right time, at the right price point? And if the answer to that is no on one of them, they may churn. And so using data and analytics for predictability is really important. And a lot of companies just don't do it.
So obviously, sales leaders need to focus on both acquisition and retention. How do you, A, balance that effort, and B, how do you optimize it?
It's a delicate balance, but let's talk about optimization first, which is what I said, going back to data. There's a couple of key points you have to understand about your customer. And so average order size, is it a subscription model? So what's the monthly recurring revenue? What's the triggers that customers usually churn? Is it 12 months or 18 months? And so making sure that you understand those triggers, you may want to do some proactive reach out to make sure that your customer's happy. But optimizing and always looking at the why behind they're leaving you. Is it for some other promotion? Is it that, they had 4 interactions with your customer service team and they weren't able to solve their problem? Connecting the surveys and all the other data points, that's how you optimize. And again, the front end traditionally is always go back to, did I sell them the right product? Did I sell them at the right price point? And are they using it? And so, if you have a subscription model and you notice they're not using it, at some point it's going to be a difficult sell to keep them on a product that they're not using.
Yeah.
That answer the question?
Yeah, but how do you optimize? You answered that part of the question. The other question is the balance, because there are only 24 hours a day, and what gets done is what you focus on. But a lot of people don't focus on balance. They have a Chinese fire drill. Oh, retention is down. Let's focus on that at the expense of new acquisition.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with training. And so how your team is set up. If you have a team of sellers and all they do is sell, and they're also taking retention calls, well, their focus is going to be on selling. So really taking a look at, how is your team set up? Are they segmented for new business, for retention, for upselling and cross-selling? And what's the training behind that? And you asked the question earlier on, you made a statement, right? People forget a lot about retention. There's so much effort put into the front end of customer acquisition training and rebuttals and doing all the other things. how much training are we putting in to retain the customer and then do the right cross-selling and upselling? And so I think the long-winded answer is you have to make sure that you give your sellers all the tools necessary and training. And many a times when you look at the training for retention, they'll put a day or two behind that and they'll spend 3 or 4 weeks on new customer acquisition. So it's that balance of putting more time and effort into training your sellers of how to keep and grow customers.
What is the ROI on your retention efforts? How should sales leaders look at that and measure that?
Well, you should look at ROI, again, looking at monthly recurring revenue. And so if I have a subscription product and they're paying me $79 a month, and the average customer staying on 12 months, that goes back to my cost per acquisition, which I said earlier. So the ROI is how many more average monthly, how can I raise the average monthly recurring revenue stream by keeping them and proactively reaching out. So your first measure is, am I taking the lifetime value longer, right? Higher lifetime value. The second part is, am I increasing the monthly recurring revenue stream? So a sticky customer that sticks and adding another product or service and raising that monthly recurring revenue is the other part that you look at. The last part you look at is churn. What did it cost me to lose that customer? So you take the customer acquisition on the front end, you take any commissions, but then let's take a look at the average monthly revenue you're losing. So if your average monthly recurring revenue is 24 months and I'm keeping a customer for 7 months, you should really be measuring the loss of revenue. And that's what customers will spend a lot more time on retention when they see how much money they actually lost versus how much they could have made.
It makes a lot of sense. Somebody once said you cannot step in the same river twice because the river changes and you change it. And the same is true with customer expectations. So you make a sale and then customer expectations change. How do you keep track of that? How do you measure that so that you get higher retention?
So let's look at customer loyalty versus product mix and SKUs. And so if I'm a company and I have one product and it's a subscription model, it's very easy to measure. But if I'm a company, a retailer, a B2B company that has multiple products, you have many different things. If I'm only selling one customer one product for 24 months, I didn't do my job when I have a plethora of different items that I can sell them. And so you're measuring the success of the customer on the upsell and the cross-sell and additional products they're buying from you. And if they're not, and take a B2B business who maybe is in the office space or the cloud space, or take a retailer who's into clothes or cosmetics, and they're only buying one product for you, that means you lost them as a customer. And that goes back to what I said earlier about using the data and analytics. Here I have 100 SKUs. They bought one from me and they never bought again. So going back to the average customer buys X amount of SKUs over 18 months, let's say it's 7, and I have 100 customers that bought one, the predictability that they're going to churn or never buy from me again is realistic.
That makes sense. Is there an early warning signal that tells you that customers are at risk?
Well, the first one is, did they reach out to you? Were they dissatisfied with the product, the service, billing, technical support? Matching up how many interactions have come in the last 30 days could be the first predictability of churn. Excuse me. If there's an issue or a problem and I didn't solve it, and now on day 3 they call back, day 5 they call back again, there's a predictability they're going to churn. And then the second part is like for like customers. If I'm on the B2B side or the B2B side, like to like customers buy X amount of products and they're not buying, there's another challenge. There's renewals, but if the data always speaks to if your customer is going to churn or become a higher buying customer buying more products from you. The data always tells the story.
Got it. Well, I just read a story about how Starbucks uses AI to create personalized offers to get customers back that haven't visited the store in a while. And so I was wondering, is there a best practice that you can share how to create personalized offers to improve retention and upsell?
There's a lot of tricks of the trade, and sometimes if you go into an e-tailer or a retailer and you load up your shopping cart and you pull out, and then all of a sudden a day later there's a coupon in there for 25% off. But going back to what you said earlier, right? Starbucks using AI tools and technology is what companies are doing these days. If I have a customer who day one spends $125, day 45 spends $125. 30 days later spends $15, something's wrong. Something's happening along the way. So the products they were buying or the additional products they're looking at, they're buying somewhere else. People continue to buy, irregardless of who they buy it from. It goes back to brand loyalty. So it's important to understand your customers' buying patterns, and then sometimes you have to push them over the edge to give them a promotion or a coupon off, or hey, we've missed you. How many customers, and this goes back to the data again, are you tracking your customers coming to your web property? And if they come to your web property 3 times over the last 7 days and didn't bought, you have a problem, right? And so are you matching up what your customers are doing? Customers load up shopping carts. Day 1, day 5, day 7, it's still loaded up. They didn't buy. What's the reason why? They're probably shopping some other site to see if they can get a better deal. And so everything I'll tell you about retention and upselling and cross-selling and acquiring new customers comes down to, are you reading the tea leaves? And the tea leaves are going to tell you if you're going to be successful or not. You could throw a lot of promotions at customers, but back to what you said earlier, if they're not happy with your service, you can give it to them for free. They don't want it. And so blending that customer service also matches with retention. A happy customer buys from you. An unhappy customer cancels.
Right. I think that there's also another issue that we need to discuss is instead of guessing where the customer is going, do customer surveys and get feedback. What is your best practice for getting feedback that improves retention?
Well, the best feedback on retention is were you able to retain the customer? That's scoreboard number 1. But really the second part of that, if you were able to do an upsell or a cross-sell of a different product, that means that you've done your service to the customer and they trust you and they have faith in you and they're willing to buy more from you. But if you just save the customer with a promotion or even lowering the price, you put yourself in a red area where they may just stay on for another 30 days and just take the discount or take the promotion and then churn out. So I measure success by keeping them and adding another product, or again, increasing that monthly recurring revenue. That's how you measure success. If I'm in the broadband space, one of those, and the customer wants to churn, if I keep them and add a premium, I did my job. If I keep them and add video, I did a better job. If I add mobility, I'm doing a great job. If I add a tablet or a wearable, so you measure your success on, did you increase the monthly recurring revenue or did you just save them as a discount? And if you save them as a discount, they're probably going to churn out at some point.
Fascinating. How does VXI use AI to predict customer behavior?
There's a lot of different mechanisms in there, and it comes back to data ingestion using interaction analytics and Predictibee, and there's specific keywords. And so, when you're looking at ingestion, and there's certain keywords that trigger things. So I've worked on an account where you would call a customer, and if the customer said, hey, I'm busy, could you call me back? We would say, okay. But then we looked at the data of a couple of outliers that even though the customer said, hey, you're busy, you couldn't call me back. And they say, hey, the reason of my call today is because of this promotion that you're eligible for. They said, really? Okay. So the trigger of call me back is because most people put their defense mechanisms up. But when you explain to them the reason of your call and the promotion and the offer because you are a perfect customer and we really like you, then they want to hear it. So that's data, that's ingestion, right? That's using data and analytics of ingestion. We've looked at certain campaigns, you need at least 3 or 4 rebuttals to get the sale. And so 1 no gets you closer to yes. 2 no's get you closer to a yes. 3 no's probably get you there. 4 no's, you get the sale. On the 5th no, the customer hangs up. So understanding how much you can push with a customer says, you know what, I can rebuttal 2 or 3 times to get them over the finish line. But if I really start pushing them, they're going to hang up. And so you have interaction tools out there that allow you to listen to that. And then you can work with your sellers on helping them how to position, how to rebuttal, how to build value. Because the data tells a story of your product, what resonates with people and what doesn't. And so it's really important to make sure that you share what you're finding with like-to-like customers with your sellers to help them. Because not every customer is the same.
I think that's a great example. In your estimation, what percentage of companies use outbound sales for retention?
Not enough. If I would, if you're asking me as an organization, every company should be doing outbound sales. Every company should be proactively seeking to speak to the customer before the contract expires, or understanding what I said earlier. They spent $125 this month, $125 this month, $7 next month, they're going to churn. And so having that conversation of, hey, it's been a while. I noticed you haven't got anything from us. Is there anything we can help you? Is there anything you're looking for? Having that communication, that goes back to measuring ROI. Sometimes companies are penny wise and pound foolish. They say, oh, the cost of an outbound sales team far exceeds the cost. Well, no, because again, what I talked about earlier, saving a customer lowers your cost per acquisition. And so if you just focus on acquiring customers and not keeping customers, you have that constant churn. So having an outbound team and an inbound team really helps you drive more monthly recurring revenue and keeping the customer from churning.
So Michael, if you do not have that outbound team, or if they're too busy and overwhelmed, is it a good idea to outsource that function?
Well, of course, you're asking me, and I think outsourcing is every company's really advantage. When you outsource, you get a company that has experience not just in one vertical, but a multitude of different verticals, who does this every day and understands how to train, recruit, hire, and manage programs to an ROI. And so if you're not outsourcing your retention team or your revenue generation team, you should think about it, because we're the experts that do this every day, for so many different companies. And if you're trying to do outbound campaigns, you have to hire a specific profile. Inbound campaigns, a specific profile. Retention. And so outsourcing is something that, a majority of the top 100 companies do. And more companies are doing this every day.
How many trained sellers does VXI have?
Tens of thousands. Many sellers across different countries.
You have armies of sellers.
It's not that we have armies of sellers. We have sales experts in different verticals, right? Our different verticals. If you're in sales, sales is not one size fits all. If you're a B2B seller doing outbound, you probably won't succeed on B2B inbound, because you can't take calls all day long that'll keep coming. But outbound, completely different. You may do $150 a day, connect to 10 people, make 2 presentations and get 1 sale. And so we build sales teams across the globe, specifically in different verticals, because it's not one size fits all. And I think that's where companies sometimes drop the ball when they have their in-house sales team, is that, oh, Michael has experience in sales. Great, I'm going to take him. Michael had experience in inbound sales for B2C, never had experience in B2B outbound. And there's different lines of businesses. So having a conversation with me can help you build the right team that can, again, lower your cost per acquisition, drive more revenue per interaction, and create a higher lifetime value. That's what outsourcing does.
Before you and I started this live, you expressed your passion for helping companies integrate people, process, and technology. And that brings me to the next question. How do you ensure that seamless integration that's necessary between the customer's team and your team and the existing technology and your domain expertise?
Yeah.
How do you put this together into a tasty meal that everybody loves to consume, but there's no rejection?
Well, it comes down to having an open and honest conversation about what are your true KPIs? What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve a higher conversion rate, or are you trying to achieve a higher revenue per interaction rate? Are you trying to build up leads on the front end and then take them over to the other side? Are you trying to have client awareness? It comes down to transparency with everyone sitting in a room, truly understanding. And then there's industry KPIs. There's, you'll sit with some people and they're like, I want a 30% conversion rate. You're not going to get a 30% conversion rate. Industry standard is 14%, And so it's having the data in front of you to share with your client or your potential client that say, here's the industry standards, which goes back to what I said earlier. I have the advantage of working in many different industries with some of the world's best brands, understanding how we've helped them grow their companies. And so sitting down and having a true, honest conversation of understanding a couple of different things. Their marketing methodology. Are they doing paid search? Are they doing brand search, SEO, affiliate marketing, TV, direct mail, radio? How are they driving inbound phone calls, or how are they driving web leads? Understanding that part of it helps build the KPIs into the success metrics. Because look, anybody can go out and buy Google search. That doesn't mean it's going to convert. I can buy 100 clicks today, which converted to 25 phone calls. But if it's not qualified, I don't want those calls. So we sit down and we look at your marketing methodology. We look at your cost per sale. We look at your different products. Then we put together a roadmap. We get the right agent. We get the right training. More importantly, we get and hit your KPIs. And that's some of the things that I do every day with my clients.
So how do you ensure consistency in terms of brand identity and brand experience?
Well, we're an extension of the brand. Again, working with some of the world's best brands in the world, you understand that we're an extension of their company. We're the power behind the brand. And you build that with transparency with your clients. People aren't buying from VXI, they're buying from the brand that we're helping succeed and grow. And so we're very good at that, partnering with the brands. I've been doing this for way too long to talk about, but working with the world's best brands, we've helped a lot of them lower their cost per acquisition and drive higher revenue and creating higher lifetime values because of that mutual respect for each other's company and how we can help make each of our companies grow.
Could you share a quick success story with KPIs?
We recently launched a direct-to-consumer site. The client was looking for a 3 to 5% conversion with an average order of about $800. We came in with about a 16% conversion with about $1,200 per order. That's collaboration. So I would say to anyone watching this, reach out to me, ping me, and we can come up with a whole lot of different case studies of companies that we've helped succeed, and I'm sure we can help yours too.
That's awesome. And by the way, we do have a webinar on April 29th, and we are going to list a link below when we're done, and so you can sign up. Michael, you have been amazing. That is a wonderful sort of college education in 20 minutes about retention, and I thank you for that. I appreciate what VXI is doing in your business. It blows me away. Thank you.
Thank you. What a pleasure. Thanks for having me.